see if that works. Good evening, everyone. I think we're live. I hope we're live.
Yeah.
Who can hear us? Does anyone let us know in the chat if you can see us, if you can hear us okay? Although you might not be able to see Rob, although he's above you, Craig.
I've got the black box. I can see his black box. Ain't died, is he?
You can it's just there in memory. No, he is. He was over at Spurs this afternoon, so I think he's probably on his way back. We'll keep the box there. What will probably happen when he jumps in is it will shift all of us down on the screens and mess it all up. So we'll know when he's here. You'll all know when he's here, and then I'll go away and add him. So in the meantime, how are you doing, Craig? Welcome to this. No, you were on some of the previous streams, weren't you, last year?
I've done one of these. I did one with Rob, I think, near the end of season 2. I think me and him, I made a big deal of that one. I actually sort of rearranged all my front room furniture to make it look like I was very professional. But this year I haven't done that. My wife and the little one are still in the front room doing bits and pieces. It wasn't fair to kick them out. So I'm in my cold conservatory for the reason for this ridiculous jumper. But no, it's good. I'm sure I'll warm up a bit talking about this. So that'll, I won't be cold for very much longer.
Good man. Awesome. Good. Thanks. Oh, yeah, got a few in the chat already. Daryl posted points. Cobbler. Glasto. Daryl can hear and see us. Okay. And Pep Talk. Evening, mate. Cool. So whilst we wait for Rob, we'll kind of just sort of go a bit of a rundown what we're going to do. I guess the last stream, for those of you that managed to make it through all 2 hours, well done. Thank you. We're going to try and keep it a bit tighter today before my missus throws me out the window, because it went over a little bit longer than anticipated. So what we're going to do first, the first of these previews that we ran last week, we ran through Arsenal to Leeds. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through the squads from Leicester through to Watford. So there's obviously some big teams in there with some, I guess, managers have got some decision making to do, especially for the likes of Liverpool, United, and Borough with the early runs. And yeah, so what we'll do is we'll run through a bit of an update on the squads, transfers, anyone that's come and gone, and yeah, try and highlight some injuries as well. And then yeah, so I mean, if anybody's got any questions, I can't do my best to answer them.
I'll try and keep an eye on the chat. I've got it open.
You got it open. Good man.
Yeah, I'll try and keep an eye on the chat.
Awesome. So let's do it. I mean, first of all, Craig, how's your planning going for your team so far?
Yeah, I'm quite happy. Me and obviously Martin did our sort of rate my team stream for the man on. That went on for about 45 minutes as well. There must be something about ChampMan that runs for an incredible length of time. But I'm quite happy that in the sense that my team didn't change that much after doing that. Sometimes when you get opinions from others and see what others are doing, it sort of gets in your head, doesn't it? Oh, that's not a bad idea. Maybe I could try and do that. But I didn't sway too much from that. I think there's like one or two things that came out of it that I thought, oh, that's something to consider. But at the moment, my draft is still the same as what it was prior to doing that. So I don't think I've changed it for about a week. I think I made about 3 drafts all in, so not too bad at the moment. I'm quite happy.
Nice, good man. Well, let's try not to trash it with some injury news.
We won't trash it in the first no one wants Leicester players, so I don't think he's going to get trashed in looking at Leicester. I don't think.
Well, let's have a go. Whoops, wrong one. So let's have a go. First in. So let's go through. There was a few transfers for Leicester this year. So not in. I don't think. No, they've had a pretty dull period of transfers. Not brought anybody in nearly 2 years. Okay. But in terms of players out, so those of you who were on the last stream last year, we saw Akinbaye go on a free. He featured a bit last year, didn't he? But then probably the biggest one, Dennis Wise leaving on a free. He's gone to Crystal Palace, funnily enough.
It's pretty big for
Interesting
them
move.
because he was on all their set pieces, wasn't he? So we need a new set piece taker now for season 3. And obviously we've seen with him in season 1 wise that he can rack up quite a high number of assists, even if they're quite bad as a team, Leicester, just by being on corners and things. So there is going to be an appeal for someone in this team now who's on set pieces. They could go mad and have sort of a double figure assist season, couldn't they? I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's Damien Delaney from memory. I can't remember exactly. We'll have to work that out nearer the time. But yes, someone in here is going to get set pieces now who didn't previously, which is useful.
Yeah, there was was it season 1? He had a hat trick of assists from corners, something like that, didn't he, Dennis Wise? So
He got loads in season. You probably click on him here and find out what it was, but it was some ridiculous amount for. Oh, you can't. He's left. But
yeah, 13. There you go, 13 assists in season 1 in 33.
So that's what someone could get. Well, they could even get more if it's a really good season. So I don't think they're known for scoring loads of goals, but you never know with set pieces. And they've got Taggart, Elliott, people like that can obviously get on the end of them. So we have to something to keep an eye on from game week 1. Who takes all their corners and things. If it's a cheap player, could be worth owning.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, goalkeeping wise, it's pretty straightforward. It's Walker, really, isn't it? They have got Flowers. They did rotate a bit. It was probably more season 1 than season 2, I think, wasn't it? But yeah.
I think you priced Walker up slightly more expensive, so I'm assuming you are expecting him to play the majority based on that.
Yeah, from what we can see, and I think it's a funny one because Leicester are another one of those that on your pod you highlighted having such high variance and very much have the capability of going down. I think that they're still. I think they've still got, Taggart's still there. I know we've priced him up at, I think priced him up at 5.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got Taggart, Elliott, and Delaney all 5. We did have Delaney up as a mid, but we've moved him back to a left back. I think he was because he was 4.5 last year and he was quite popular. And I think
there you go. He's got 20 for set pieces there, Delaney. So I think he's the favourite to take over on the corners and things. So he's someone to consider now. I think if he was 4.5, I think knowing that, I think he probably would have been the best 4.5 to own just because of that assist potential. 5 million gives people a choice now, doesn't it? Because I don't think they'll keep loads of clean sheets, but he may offset that with the attacking returns. So he's probably the only one. Maybe him and Izzet are probably the only ones that most will consider. I think here, the squad is quite poor if we're being realistic. So they'll be near the bottom of the league. I think bottom 5 or something probably.
Okay. Do you think? I think from
so you like Sturridge and stuff will play. I can't remember what he's priced up as Sturridge, but if he's quite cheap, you just want a cheap striker that will play.
So he's up at 7. So he's up at 7 alongside Trevor Benjamin, who I think he was 4.5, I think, in the last couple of seasons. Didn't feature too much. But so let that price give you an idea as to what we can expect. Because I think otherwise, like you say, it's a pretty lightweight squad. Otherwise, obviously you see Scowcroft come in, sit in that AMC, or can even start up front. So he's down to 7 million. I think it was 9 million season 1.
Yeah,
he was pretty hefty. But yeah, he did okay with that. He was one of those. He was again one of those in last year as well. I think had the periods where they had 3-4 good game weeks, and then you never heard from them. I think his spell was quite early on. But yeah, missed out on a fair few games last season as well.
He's got that. At least he could play up front, isn't he? He's got that appeal that he could play up front, and a 7 million midfielder playing up front. The other players that have got that scope are a lot more expensive than that. So if you've got a little bit of a weaker budget or something, then he is someone to consider. He'll have his moments, I would imagine. I think he's probably good for sort of 8 to 10 goals or something, which probably is not bad for a 7 million mid, is it? If he returns that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But then again, you've got Izzet as well, who would still be on pens. He took them last year, didn't he?
If they've not signed anyone, then everything should be the same as last year. Say apart from the set pieces, he'll have that up arrow like he did last year. So another one that will have his moments, and I can imagine if they do have a run of a couple of home games, he could get something. I don't expect. I think others at that price point over a season will do better than him. But say for little runs of games, he could be an option.
Yeah. I mean, any of the budgets in there? I mean, we've got 2 5.5s in ED. Although he's suspended for a match. Anyone was going to go there?
Known to play for England on other me being a manager on this game, not playing fantasy ChampMan, but me just managing teams. Quite often you see him in an England squad, Darren Eady. So he's not bad on this game. He's got a reputation. I think that because Leicester just aren't very good, he doesn't obviously get the returns to justify it. But stats wise, and say where he goes on the game, he's not actually too bad. So he another one 5.5 for a run of games as a sort of a third or a fourth mid you could have him.
Nice. We had Joby McAnuff featured a couple of bits. I think I bought him out at some point last year because he's playing right wing, I think, last year. But yeah, I think he was 5. It was 5 last year. He's 5 this year. I mean, stats wise, they don't.
We've got 20 pace, 20 acceleration like Edie, so they've got 2 whippets out on the wings. If they can get those two into some space and cross in, then who knows? I say Scowcroft's got reasonably good aerial stats, I think. So another sort of string to his bow that he's got 2 wide fast players. So I don't really like Leicester, but I don't think their early fixtures justify starting with them. Even they're away, aren't they? Game week 1, I think.
Yeah, away to Villa.
So 3 away in the first 4, not great. I think you can wait and see for a couple of weeks with them.
Fair enough. They had not a bad lineup for a friendly. They actually made some substitutions. The AI made a few. But I mean, that's generally what you can expect. Is it with the up arrow if Scowcroft's up front, right?
Yeah, it looks like they've moved Savage. Well, you say you can't trust these formations from the friendlies, but
True.
Savage may be the one to move infield and into Wires' old position, and that's probably less competition for McAnuff. So yeah, if you wanted him, probably maybe if anything a little bit more now than last year with Wires going, because Savage plays on the right as well and did play some minutes out there last year. So it's probably McAnuff that gains because he's probably going to get a few more minutes now because of it.
Nice, cool. Yeah, I think that's us done for Leicester. Any questions in the chat? Anyone want to see anybody? Yeah, if you want us to click on anyone, just give us a shout. Go back and do that. We are doing our best, Fantasy Connection, to make Leicester sound like they're attractive players. We've got a lot of breadth of talent in this game.
I didn't realise we was that see-through.
We don't want to template.
Are we that see-through?
I'm going to come up with. I'll try and find some more stats. But no, what out of position midfielder at 7 million for your boots. Just quickly, were there any massive injuries to anyone in particular? No. Matthew Jones out for a month with a collarbone. Lee Marshall, a few days with a dead leg. Moving on. Liverpool. So, in terms of players out, Nielsen. Well, I don't think it's been announced. I don't think it's been announced by the official account yet. But obviously we lost Colin Cooper.
This is a story.
So I'm not sure the exact timelines, but basically, so Bolton let him go on he went to Liverpool on a Bosman. He didn't feature. You think he lasted about 2 weeks because he was on like a rolling contract. So I'm right in saying the game kind of doesn't care how long they've been there. It can just say see you later, or if somebody comes
immediately. Yeah. If it's rolling, they're not tied for any amount of time, so yeah, they can just end it immediately.
So that was on the 6th of July. Actually, hang on, we can figure this out.
Poor Colin Cooper. So he got signed on a Bosman probably 6 months before his Bolton contract ran. He had 6 months at Bolton, thinking he would play for Liverpool next season. And about 3 weeks later, he went to Liverpool and they released him within days. 6 months of his life he spent looking forward to that transfer. Finally get to play for a big team when I'm like 36. And he obviously didn't train very well.
No, had a bad induction. I don't know. Said the wrong thing at his induction dinner. But yeah, there you go. So he was released on the. He went at the end of his contract, 3rd of June. Lasted 32 days, 33 days. Poor Colin. Anyway, he's playing his trade in a fairly decent Wolves team. So good luck to him. But probably the biggest thing for fantasy players is departure of Honcho to Borough. So what do you think that does for their back line?
I'd imagine Biscan is the most likely to drop back. He obviously did play some games. Well, he's quite versatile, isn't he? I think he spent a lot of time in centre mid mainly last year, but we did see him occasionally at centre back. Oncho, I think, got injured 2 or 3 times last year, so they needed obviously replacements. Carragher had a couple of games there, and Biscan, I think, was probably the one that played there the most when Oncho was injured. So I think that's the likely thing now, is that he just goes back. So we'll get Hegem, Biscan, Hippier and Risa probably, but with Carragher kind of breathing down their necks for like all the positions, because you can see that he plays in all of the defensive roles. So of all the sort of in this game, you feel like you get fairly nailed defenses with the first sub quite obvious. I do think the first choice back four is fairly obvious here, but so I wouldn't be surprised if he started sort of 15, 20 games, just in one of the positions, but not first choice in any of them. So just something to bear in mind if you're a Liverpool defender, that he's obviously there that could rotate with someone. Probably not Hippier, I wouldn't think, but the other 3 could lose some minutes to him. Biscan's been priced as a defender this year, which makes me think as well that you've seen him playing defence in the sims you ran. So be interesting.
Yeah, I think
0.5 less than Hippier, so it'd be interesting if people go for the saving. Hippier obviously takes penalties, so we've seen from Unsworth last year, if a team gets multiple penalties, then Hippier will definitely be worth the 0.5 if he takes and scores 5 to 10 penalties. But if they don't really get any, then I'd imagine Biscan's probably worth the saving. I think he's got. Do you click on him a sec? I think he's got really high heading and stuff, Biscan. So I think he wins. Jumping, sorry, not heading. But yeah, so he does win quite a lot of aerial duels. So obviously, key headers are one of the metrics that help give someone a high average rating. So probably a contender for bonus points with knowing that. So I don't think he'll be massively behind Hippier for bonus points. I think they'll do as well as each other. It's literally the penalties is the only difference if you think you want to pay the extras for, and Hippier is a bit more nailed probably as well. So more nailed than possible penalties, but it could pay off having him.
It looks like most. So yeah, he's just under 5% owned at the moment by live teams, but actually 20% owned. John Arna Risa at 500,000 less. So I mean, yeah, he was the first choice left back, probably still is. Didn't bring too much in terms of attacking returns, but yeah, a full million cheaper than Hippier. I guess that's the thing, right? You're paying for the penalties, and as you said, as you mentioned there with Biscan, heading, jumping. This is Sami Hippier. He's been a bonus magnet since season 1. So
I'm sure Hippier over a season will get 1 or 2 clean sheets more than Biscan just for playing more games and say whatever he gets from penalties. But I think bonus will be similar. Risa will probably get not a lot of anything apart from the clean sheets. But 5.5 into a million defender in a team that might keep 17, 18 clean sheets is still going to deliver a fair amount of points, aren't they? So I won't put people off doing that if they want a cheaper route in, because I think he will play sort of 28, 30 games. And he has got the potential to get returns from them. He didn't last year, but he could get assists. Liverpool aren't a team that score loads of goals, though. Like a lot of the games are like 1-2-0, aren't they, with them? They don't put 4 or 5 past too many teams, so that damages his attacking appeal a little bit.
We say that. No, yeah. Oh, yeah, remember that one.
Yeah.
Bad Merseyside derby. But no, you're right. It feels like, and that's why I said when we go to chatting about forwards, especially with Michael Owen out, and especially in midfield, there's never really been a standout pick in midfield. There's a lot of potential rotation in there. So yeah, I think people do just still and will still continue to look at them primarily as a defensive route. I guess Hegem is probably still looking at right back.
I'd expect him to get more returns than Risa, I think, like attacking wise. What's Hegem? Is he 6 million or 5 point?
No, Hegem's 5 million. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Definitely interesting for week one. They've obviously got Norwich, haven't they? Game week one, so I'm sure that people will want some Liverpool players for that game. Worries me a bit. He's that cheap because that makes me think he might not play. But he's if you're on that strategy that a few people are on, that going to wild card maybe game week 5 or something. He's one to maybe punt on. He could go wild and he could get a clean sheet and a couple of assists in that first game. Hegem, so he's the differential at least for week one, and maybe you can just persevere with him for the first 4 weeks. Knowing Liverpool are not bad for clean sheets, and then make a decision with him on wild card. So I won't be against him as a defensive option. Yeah, midfield's hard. I think Berger seemed to be the one that was most consistent for returns last year, but he's not nailed. I don't know many games he played last year in the end.
Well, 28. So he missed 10 games.
But I think he was the one that there's 7 goals, 6 assists. I wouldn't have thought there's anyone in midfield for Liverpool that bettered that 13 returns. So maybe him. Say Gerrard's nailed, but doesn't actually do a lot really.
I mean, he's, and I think, and it's the same. We saw it with Rooney when we did the stream last week with Everton. But yeah, so Gerrard's 29% owned at the moment, which is pretty heavy. I think he was, and he's there at 6 million, but you can kind of see, and I guess did have a better season 1 with 7 goals, 5 assists. But again, it kind of went under the radar. I don't think really he was never in a majority of teams. Very quiet year last year. Obviously missed quite a few games, whether that was through rotation or injury. But yeah, to have nearly 30% of the game on him. Do you think he can? And I guess there's a thing, right? With as the seasons progress, stats improve. Stats wise,
he's got good stats. He's got good stats, but doesn't obviously guarantee. I'm convinced that there'll be someone at his price point that will do better than him. But he's nailed. Well, it's good. I'm guessing he'll miss a lot of those games of injury last year. He's the one in there in that Liverpool midfield that will play every game, I think. And obviously now we've lost Honcho. Biscan was one of the other main contenders for that central midfield role, and I very much doubt that he'll play in there really now. He obviously they could play Carragher at the back, and if it's Biscan that loses the lottery to play in defence, Biscan could move into midfield and play there. But the fact that Biscan's probably likely to play 25, 30 games in defence is one less bit of competition for Gerrard, and probably for Berger as well, to be fair. I won't be surprised if it was those two as the starting pair with Barnby and Murphy, maybe, as the first choice midfielder. I'm hesitant to say on Liverpool because they rotate a lot more than other teams. Not quite as obvious what they're going to do, but I think Murphy, Gerrard, Berger, Barnby is probably what I would expect to be first choice if there is one. But you take that with a pinch of salt because Smits is there who plays games as well. Partridge obviously broke into the team a bit last year. So he's going to get some more minutes, I think. Partridge, so another one. But Berger's probably the one to start with, I think, if I was going to punt. I think for Liverpool for that game week 1 game with Norwich, if you wanted a midfielder.
Yeah, Partridge is out for 2 months.
So again, that's one less. I think he played. I don't know if he played right or left when he played last year. I can't remember. But they're all interchangeable. I think Murphy plays in like the right or the centre. Berger plays left or the centre. Barnby, I think, plays in all the positions. Partridge plays both wings. So a bit like Arthur with Lundberg, Perez, and all that lot that all sort of rotate around. Liverpool have got similar midfielders in that sense. But but Berger's not a bad punt for week 1, especially as in a midfield start. And then obviously up front we've lost Owen, so probably Fowler and Heskey, I would think, but Littman's still there that could play.
Well, he is orange flagged.
Oh, he's at 90%.
He is. So yeah, Craig, do you want to explain what the game can do in a 90% condition player?
Yeah, so if a player is orange flagged, they can still feature as long as their fitness is above 70%. Most of the time, it's 90s, a fairly common sort of fitness level for someone who's orange flagged. And I don't know the ins and outs of this. I think someone worked out in season 2 that there is a certain type of injury that the game sort of treats more seriously than others at 90%. So if you've got a certain type of injury, they're less likely to play semi-injured, but other ones they will play if they're semi-injured. game doesn't work on the sense that, oh, this is quite an easy game on paper. It's Norwich, so we don't need to risk him in that game because we should win without him. And the computer's not that smart in that sense. So so I don't know what knee ligaments. So that's not my area of expertise, I'm afraid. What sort of injury
Is it not?
plays for? No, afraid not. Someone might know in the chat. But yeah, I think it's a worry for Heskey now because I see in our Rate My Team there was quite a few drafts with Heskey in, and I can completely see the reasons why. But I would imagine Fowler is probably the most nailed, or Owen's the most nailed when fit. But out of Fowler and Heskey, I think Fowler's pretty much guaranteed to play. And now it will be Owen or Heskey with him, depending on, let's say, what the game decides with this 90%. But he can play now, with knowing that. So I think Heskey is probably a bit risky for me now. I think for game week 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean Michael Owen generally has got quite high injury proneness.
Oh yeah,
all right.
So if they play him at 90%, he could get injured again 10 minutes into the game. It doesn't need. It's a bit like real life. One of the things they've got true to real life that Michael Owen doesn't mind an injury. So, yeah. I don't think you risk going for game week 1, which is a shame because I say Norwich is a good fixture for Liverpool. But I wouldn't want to say he's definitely going to play. I think Fowler's the safe option if you want to go in with a Liverpool striker, I think.
Yeah, there you go. A few cats amongst pigeons there for a few drafts maybe. Sorry, Gary, we didn't see who Liverpool brought in. This was highly anticipated, these two coming in. Apart from Colin, who's obviously gone, these two, Cinema Pongo and Latalik, they've been earmarked since season 1, I think. They're both just awful. So
yeah, I'd be very surprised if they play.
Yeah, neither are priced up. So there you go. Cool. What do you think Liverpool could do all in all this season?
You think top 4 is probably realistic. I don't think they'll win the league. I don't think they're as good as Man United, Arsenal and Leeds. I think it's them and Chelsea probably for 4th and 5th, unless one of the sort of middle teams that sort of exceeds themselves. Their defence is obviously useful. They won't let many goals in. They don't concede too much. So I think it's probably sensible for most of the season to maybe go with at least one defender from Liverpool. They'll get their fair share of clean sheets. Ahead of that, you're punting all the time. I say the likes of Berger could have good runs. Fowler last year, I think, shot quite a lot, but didn't score too many goals. But if you believe that, obviously, someone needs to be shooting to be able to score. Has he got it in him to score 20 goals? He probably has. And I say they was providing him with quite a lot last year. And I say he may be their leading striker most of the year if Owen obviously gets injured 4 or 5 times, which is more than possible as well. But they're punts, aren't they, ahead of that? I think Hippie is safe. I think Biscan's quite safe. Others, I'd say I wouldn't put people off. They'll have their moments. And Liverpool are a good team, so they should get chances and should score a steady amount of goals. They'll probably be like top 8 or something for goals scored, probably top 3 for goals conceded. So pick your moments with the others, but I don't really see many teams going in with 3 Liverpool players. I think that would be quite unusual.
Yep, I'm with you. Cool. Any questions in the chat for Liverpool? Littmanen, because Littman's down at 6 million. You can often give. He popped up a few times. Yeah, made 15.
Not bad, is it? 19 attacking returns last year. Oh, it's all competitions though. But
yeah, sorry, yeah. So just on the league. 7 goals, 4 assists. Could be an interesting one.
If say Liverpool have got quite injury-prone strikers, so there may be stints of the season where he sort of comes into the reckoning, but just because there's no one else. Well, I think we had it in season 1. That guy, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Joland over on the left there. I think he ended up playing. I think he ended up playing about 5 league games or so season 1, just because the way just because injuries racked up and they didn't have anyone else. So I think there'll be periods with Littmanen that he may be an option. But I doubt he's probably 4th choice, I think, realistically, up front for Liverpool.
Yeah, I'm with you. Panda, so yeah, for those who weren't here at the beginning, so Panda was at the Tottenham game earlier. So he's either, as we speak, making his way across London So yeah, we will we're leaving his space in case he joins us. Which if he does, it will like mess all our cameras up. So you'll know as soon as we do.
I hope you're going to tell him off camera that he's got his priorities wrong today. Doesn't even support Tottenham or Liverpool. He's put that over coming on here. Shambles.
Just a football fan. It's a football fan. Cool. Moving on to Man City. So players in. So they brought in Dion Burton from Derby, just at the end of last season. A striking option. Quite interesting one. Jermaine Wright. Season 1 did really well at Ipswich. Was suffered from rotation last year, but yeah, fairly decent. I quite like him as a player. Goalkeeping option, Michael Oakes. So they had 2 kind of rotating keepers last year. No one could figure out who was going to start from one week to the next. So yeah, and then Dean Hopkins, Tony Webster probably won't feature. So yeah, Jermaine Wright, Michael Oakes, and then in terms of players out, Terry Cook, Colosimo, 1.2 million. Never featured, did he? No. Nicky Summerby, Richard Dunn they've lost, and Paul Ritchie, who I didn't think featured either. So yeah, there we go. I guess this is where sort of sat in terms of your goalkeeping options. So you got Oakes, Nash, and Weaver. I guess as new players come into teams, they get a boost in their rep, right? So they're more likely to start.
I think he's first choice. I think of all the 5 million keepers, if he was going to hold one season long, I think he might actually be the best one. There's obviously quite a few first choice keepers. The Enkelman at Villa, the Blackburn lad, Lambopoulos, whatever. I think there's quite a few of them at 5 million this year. Seems to be the main price for the mid-table teams for their goalkeepers. And so I think if I was going to hold one for the season, I think I'd pick Oakes. I think he's fairly steady. Definitely an upgrade on what they had in season 2. So yeah, I think he's an option. Maybe I'd say.
I mean, I was going to say they finished 15th last year.
I think they'll be better than that. I think they'll be pushing top half. Man City, I think, yeah. If I was going to put a bet on now, I think I'd be expecting to finish top half more than bottom half. I think. Good news for Steve Howie here, because obviously Dunn and Ritchie have both left, and those two are both the centre back. So Hurtado came in. I don't know if it was season 1 or season 2, but he's first choice centre back. But Howie, I think now has probably got it sort of. He's now probably now to play with him, I would think. So I think he's 4.5, isn't he? He might be able to get
Howie is 5. Howie is 4.5.
Yeah, right. So I think he's probably, if you want a playing 4.5 defender, I think he's definitely sort of in that on the short list. I don't think defensively they did that well for average rating and stuff. I didn't get as much bonus points last year, Man City defenders, as some of the other ones. So maybe bear that in mind. But pretty steady hand for 4.5, those two. Yeah, I like Jermaine Wright. I think they've suffered for pretty much all of last season with no particularly good central midfielder. The fact that he's not too bad and he's a new signing, which obviously enhances his reputation. I'd imagine he's as good as now in their central midfield as well. So I would expect him to play sort of 33, 35 games for them. So he's an option. And we've seen in past seasons he has got a little bit of goal threat about him if he gets chances. So I wouldn't be against him as like a permanent squad hold. And then Burton, I would assume, will start over Huckabee. So I'd imagine we'll get one chop and Burton as first choice strike partnership now for this season. With obviously Thiago, Svensson, Wright, and another in midfield. Not quite sure who will be the first choice with Wright. There's a few candidates in this squad that could play centre mid. Flitcroft's in there, Borlock's in there. Even that new guy, I think he was a regen, Bruff. I think they quite like him as well.
Scotty Bruff.
Yeah, I think for some reason they quite like playing him. So I wouldn't actually be surprised if he actually got some. His attributes aren't particularly good, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he may play central midfield with Jermaine Wright. I wouldn't write that off.
I mean, he got 8 attacking returns last year from 14.
played left wing, didn't he? Because
Yeah.
Teato got injured, so I think he got benefited from being one of the wide players. I think his attributes are more suited to playing out wide than in the middle. But so the game doesn't work like that, does it? So if they just want to play him, they'll play him, even if it's in sort of not the best position for him. So I'll stick my neck out and say he'll play central midfield with Jermaine Wright, and they'll play Teato and Svensson either side. Teato's there. I won't call him main man, but I think he's probably the more reliable of the midfielders for returns, and has got scope to probably get sort of 20 attacking returns, where maybe the other ones won't.
We have a third guest. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, Luke. How's it going?
How's it going, man? I don't know if I'm in the actual game or whatever. I can't see it. Obviously, just using YouTube, but that's all good.
We can hear you. I think everyone can hear you.
Just not see me?
No, I can't see you.
No, I can't see you. Hear you.
Hang on.
We will. I need to do some. I need to do some window adjusting. We're gonna put you in Panda's spot.
Why is my camera not working? It says camera is starting. Interesting.
That's still me. That's cool. Cool. I mean, carry on.
You've done well, Luke. We're going to get on to Man United. Talk about coming for all the good teams. Let's us talk through the shit of Man City and Leicester, and he comes on to talk about Man United.
It's a spur of the moment, man. I just decided to come on. Why not? I'll take the good teams. Cheers, boys.
I don't know what your thoughts are, Luke. Man City was just talking about sort of Wright, Burton, and Michael Oakes. Really, you could probably talk about Michael Oakes a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I think Michael Oakes is probably the best 5 million over the season. I think that's. I just think Man City are probably going to do a lot better. I mean, there's no guarantees, but he's a decent keeper as well. So a lot of the keepers at the lower ends are just actually poor individually, aren't they? Whereas Oakes is, I know from playing the game, is pretty decent and his stats are pretty handy. So I'd have a little bit more faith in him. And yeah, I think Man City are going to be good options this season. I think the wingers didn't perform as well as they could last season. I think they are actually better than what they did, and they're about the same price. One shot can have better seasons. Jermaine Wright is a bit of a sleeper. I think he'll probably play the vast majority of games and can do very well. Goals and assists, probably pretty much nailed in that centre midfield spot now. And even Hurtado is a decent option because occasionally he gets penalties right. So I think they've got quite a few options actually. I like them, and they're one of the more nailed 11s, which is an important factor in ChampMan, right?
I wouldn't rule off starting with them either. It's easy to look at the fixtures and think, oh, they've got Man United game week 1, so you won't start with them. But they are at home, which obviously, as we know, is completely different kettle of fish if they were away. So I wouldn't be against that. I don't think they'll get thumped. They may lose 2-1 or something, but I don't think he'll be a maul in there. They may even win that game. And then the fixtures after, they've got obviously 2 quite nice. Same with Arsenal, that won't be a thumping either. They'll keep those 2 games quite tight. And then they've got a Norwich game in the first 4 at home as well. And Leicester away is not the worst either. So
yeah, it's the Norwich game. You probably 3 home games in 4, and the Norwich game makes them slightly appealing. It's just the fact that it's Man U and Arsenal is a bit off-putting. But we know in this game, home advantage counts for a lot. And the specific tactic that Man City use, which counters direct passing, has been shown in lots of sims that I did last season. They can actually play very well versus Man United. Now, Man United obviously can just win because they're the best team, and that can happen quite comfortably. But it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Man City drew or even beat Man United in game week 1, which would be a real upside for those who've spent a lot of money on Van Nistelooy and Veron, right? So I think there's always a chance.
I think I'll say it as well. They got that Arsenal game week 3. I think Arsenal are the one team that when a team is at home to Arsenal, that's the one fixture that could literally end 3-0 either way. I think everyone loaded up on Arsenal last year away to Middlesbrough game week 1, and Middlesbrough won that 3-0. And I wouldn't be surprised if Man City did the same in game week 3, like one chop has a good game or something, and then sending him into Norwich as well.
I think Arsenal are better equipped to take on Man City, put it that way, because of the short passing and the way that Man City play. I think Arsenal will probably win that game, but I think they've got a better chance against Man United, conversely, which is strange because Man United are far better than Arsenal.
On we go, Chris. I think
I can't get my camera to work. I don't know why. Carry on, guys. You might have to, if you de-invite me and re-invite me, it might work. I think it's because it was downloading the updates because I just got a new computer, but I don't know whether it's worth it. What do you think?
Do you want to? Well, if you leave and then go back in, maybe
Okay,
that
I'll
work?
do that.
Oh, it should be the same in fact. Cool. It skewed the cameras a little bit. You got my hands here. That's where Craig should be. It's a bit weird. When he joins, it should
If
be.
you get no top on, that would be a bad view at the minute. Take your t-shirt on, you're all right.
It shows you where the camera ends. That is literally there. We're not going any further. Cool. What we got strikers wise, it's pretty well. It's, as we said. Hey, there we go.
You can see my bin bag of presents I've been wrapping behind.
I need to apologise quickly to Pirlo's beard in the chat as well, because I called Scotty Bruff a regen, and apparently he's not a regen.
He's not a regen. No, he's not a regen.
I thought he was. Sorry, Pirlo. My bad.
No, all good. Thanks for jumping in, Luke. Good to see you again.
No problem. Couldn't stay away. Could I?
No, who can? For those who are new, and if there's anyone in the chat who's new and this is their first season, do give us a shout. Do let us know. It'd be good to see some. If there is anyone new, but if there is anyone new, Luke was our season 1 champion, and then went on to run the game last year. So knows the challenges that come with some of the with pricing and everything. But all in all, knows the game fairly well, shall we say?
I'm still playing it now. I've got it in the background playing. I've been playing for like 30 years. That's the main. Yeah, forget ChampMan for now. Just playing the game non-stop, pretty much. As sad as I am.
Living the dream, we call it. No, good stuff. So I guess we just go on to strikers. So yeah, it's fairly straightforward for City. It's Huckabee and one chop. Right.
No, I think he'll be Burton in one chop probably. I think.
Do you think?
We don't know, do we, yet until game week 1? But new signing bounce maybe. Don't mean Huckabee's reps especially high. So he has got one of their star players though. Looking at that.
Yeah, look, the both of them, and then Tiato was the other one. Yeah. So yeah, what did he do? I mean, he wasn't even though he didn't feature for Derby. You think he can come straight in because of the bounce?
I think Huckabee will be clearly ahead. And what's the pricing? That will obviously give us a bit of a clue there. I've not looked at that at all. I would just imagine Huckabee was ahead. To be fair, it could be the Burton's
in at 5. Huckabee 6.5. One chop 7.5.
Yeah, I would suggest that probably tells the story a bit there. One of the subs, they usually have one striker on the bench, and one sub whoever's performing worse will often go off at around the 70th minute in most games. So that's probably why Burton's priced up, because he probably sees a few minutes that way. That's what I'd guess anyway.
I mean, I remember starting with Huckabee last year. I purely because I couldn't afford one chop, and I think one chop had about 3 straight returns the first 3 weeks.
Then they switched, right?
Yeah, well, I think he just still had pretty 4 goals in 34 appearances for Huckabee.
It's pretty bad, isn't it?
I had to bin his price purely from that. From that personal experience. But yeah, I guess. Yeah, and it was what I think it was what Andy or Rob was saying last week around. Actually, no, I think it's yourself, Craig, on the pod, the Man On pod earlier in the week, where he said don't mess around in terms of when you've got a front 2, going for the better of the 2. Last season, this was pretty clear.
Yeah, Martin was saying that. It's odd exceptions like Leeds, maybe Arsenal. You might be worth the saving on Jeffers over Henry, but most teams, it's probably just worth paying the extra for the better striker, I think.
Fair enough. And you think? I mean, Luke, Craig said that he reckoned that City can be pushing for top half season 3.
Yeah,
see it as well in this squad.
Yeah, I've got a question, Captain. From your 10 sims that you guys have done, or I assume it's 10, I think last year I released the data on attacking goals, average and stuff like that, just to help guide players. Is that something you guys plan to do? Obviously, if you don't, it's not a problem, but I just wondered if that was something you were planning to do or not.
Yeah, I think some of the overall stats, I think Rob had them. I'm not sure if they were in the his planner or what he was going to share out. But I'll check with him because we had a conversation. It's not going to be player specific.
No, of course
but yeah,
not.
the same sort of thing. The same sort of thing that you shared.
Yeah, I think it's
Should be,
useful
presenting.
just as a guide because people, especially new people who come in, right, they don't really have a general understanding, and where a team finished last year isn't necessarily reflective of where it will finish next year, which is, I suppose you could say the same for real football there as well, to be fair. Yeah, so I think it's quite handy. But anyway, what I was going to say is on that, I would expect Man City have done pretty well, if my instinct's correct. But obviously, you guys will know for sure, and maybe they don't. So we'll have to see. And in any case, even if they averagely did well, you just have to get that one season where they do terrible, right? Which can happen.
I think they
Yeah,
averaged
exactly
on
that.
about seventh. I think on the Martin did 20
yes,
one of our pods, and I think they was seventh from memory, maybe even been sixth. So yeah, they were up there.
Good to know.
Good stuff. Anything else on City? Any questions in the chat? One shot, 6 and 6 from pre-season.
Yeah, someone's called him six chop rather than one chop because he's pre-season record, which is I like that. Nice.
Has he scored 6 in
I
pre-season?
mean, who we talking? Fulham scored 2 away at Brentford.
On that game there, Viking, click on the match report, captain. There won't be one. That's a fake game.
I mean, who even writes that?
Yeah, it's just a fake game. You just have to ignore everything about it. Generally, they'll all be 7 and no subs. As you can see, it's not bothered to even.
Yeah, all of these, aren't they?
Write it.
There's a couple.
Some of them will be real. You just check the match report to see if it was a real game, basically.
Yeah. Scotty Brough scored in that game. There you go. The 3-1. Yeah, and a real game as well.
Get him in. Cool. So, Manchester United, Premier League champions. Where do we start? Transfers. So players are in. So we've had 2 big signings in the off season. So Echiog has come back in from his Scottish hiatus. Decent first half of the season for Borough, then went away to Celtic, and a season later lost 3 million on him. Well done, David Gill. So Echiog's is back in the Prem, and then you've got David Dunn who's come over from Blackburn as a very necessary midfield option for Man United, clearly. So
goals for a place on the bench, can't he? That's what Man United really needed.
Well, he's out for 3 months. Well, they lost to Waterford United. Terrible. So Barthez in goal, so there's no changes there. But yeah, you think Echiog and Roque would come straight in as your centre back pairing?
I think it's most likely, isn't it? I imagine Ronnie Johnson starts to get phased out. Wes Brown's still around though. His attributes are actually quite good, so maybe he'll. In the Sims I ran last year, he was in the team quite a lot in season 2, but I guess he's completing with 2 new signings. I saw Cam Roque Jr. as a new signing, so he's probably third choice. It's just what we see from Johnson now. But I would imagine Echiog and Roque Jr. our first choice would be my guess.
Wes Brown's attributes could get a lot better than that as well. I think they're not as high because he basically hasn't been playing as well. He normally always gets 20 for jumping, and a lot of that stuff down the middle gets really good. So yeah, I just think we probably either got a slightly worse version, or conversely, if he starts playing a lot, they'll shoot up pretty quickly. Yeah, Roque Jr. and Echiog are the centre back pairing, I'd say, but especially in the first few weeks, I'd just be a little bit wary because Craig said, Johnson and who was the other one? I've totally forgotten already. Who we were talking about?
Wes Brown.
Yeah, Wes Brown and Gary Neville can even float in the first few weeks, are a bit ropey. So over the season, I think they'll be fine. But yeah, first few weeks, Johnson's got a great reputation. At the end of the day, he just plays because he's got a massive reputation. So I'd expect he'll probably feature now and then, annoyingly.
I think Sylvester's the safe one to start with for that reason. Obviously, he's the only other left back you've priced up is that injured guy who I don't really know a lot about, to be fair.
Kevin Moffat is Canadian, isn't he? Yeah. There you go.
If he's injured as well, Sylvester's got no competition, I don't think. So if you do want to start with one defender, it's probably worth paying the extra for Sylvester, as Luke just said about the rotation.
I think for
Probably
just
is worth it.
pure security, it's probably worth it. Sylvester, he can also play centre back as well. But I think Ekiog is just the standout pick across the season. It's actually a benefit that it's not Ferguson in charge, because he doesn't do that. He goes to Man United sometimes in the earlier when Ferguson's there, and he doesn't do too well because of the man marking system. But anyway, under this manager, he can do pretty well. So I'd be surprised if Ekiog isn't right up there come average rating at the end of the season. I think you guys on your Sims just saw that a lot as well, right? And a lot of people in the chat, like Benno was saying it as well. He's often like in and around the eights. He's basically just equivalent of Gareth Southgate essentially, but playing for a team that can get 30 clean sheets, but have yet to show us that in our version.
I think he had the
He's
highest
currently-
average rating season 1 for a defender when he left. I know Haridason was the one getting all the man of the
Yeah.
matches and stuff. I think Ekiog's average rating was higher.
I had Ekiog season 1 a lot actually when no one had him, and he kept letting me down by just unlucky stuff like get injured or something like that, or Southgate would just get man of the match, or you know what I mean, something like that. But he was good. He was a good pick.
Nice. I mean, Ekiog's 48% owned in the game.
I think that's
Not
So that's going to be.
I think he's 0.5 cheap. I'm surprised he wasn't 6.5 to be honest. So I can see why. I've got him in my draft at the minute, so I can see why.
Good stuff.
I think it's important to try and tap into the Man United defence if you can, just because, like I said, they can hit 30 clean sheets. So, yeah, Ekiog's just the cheapest, best route in, I think. So, yeah, fair play. I can see why everyone's done that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, same price as Rocket Jr. Rocket Jr. is only 4.6% owned. I guess, yeah, it's not for, like you say, is that high average rating, which I guess you'd still get from. I mean, what was Rocket?
He can do really well for average rating as well. He's just not as good as Ekiog as it. If you control Roque Jr., you can get really good high average rating out of him, especially at the start under AC Milan. You've got Maldini and him alongside each other. It's not particularly hard. He can do very well, and even Lawson's there as well. Your Villa fanboy Craig, he's there. Martin Lawson. He is good, but I just think if anyone's going to drop out of the two, it'd probably be. And we mentioned that Johnson and Brown come in. I'd expect it's more likely Junior than Ekiog, but. Who knows?
So one of the big price increases we've had this year. So obviously Bex is gone. He's gone off to Milan, £20 million. And Emerson had left as well, by the way. For anyone who didn't catch it at the end of last season, so he's gone over to Spain. So that kind of leaves this midfield, and it left that the right wing, position. Right mid position fairly open for one man and one man only, and that was Luke Chadwick. So he's up to $9 million this year, same price as Nedved on the other flank. But also you've got Dunn.
In one draft in my rate my team video, to be fair though. So I don't know if it's the price that's put people off, because as you say, he does seem fairly nailed now. But he was, I think, if literally the only midfielder in any team there was Veron. I think one person had Giggs, but there wasn't any other Man United midfielder owned in the 25 we looked at. I don't know what that says, but maybe people don't want to double up, maybe.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Chadwick. I think he's a really good pick. I think it's not too dissimilar to what you were saying, Craig, about Hippier versus the other Liverpool defenders. Essentially, we're paying, how much is Veron? Is he 11.5? Is he? It's
Yeah.
So what is that? 2.5 million more for pretty much to get a share of set pieces, because he doesn't get all of them, and to get penalties. And even I think occasionally we saw Van Nistelooy took one occasionally when Veron's on this, because they both got 20 for penalties. So Van Nistelrooy can occasionally take them, but you have to expect that Veron will probably get them. So you're paying a lot of money for that. Yeah, it's got good average rating, but the wingers generally get quite a good average rating for Man United usually. I mean, Giggs can often be in the 8s. So I think it's a consideration, especially if you're looking to wildcard in game week 5, to just say, well, I don't think I'll take a chance Veron won't get a penalty and save 2.5 million. I don't think it's out of the question that Chadwick can match him or get close. So yeah, you're just paying for the security of having Veron, right, of having those penalties and stuff. So I think there's an argument anyway.
Well, Giggs is actually 90%, so he's out for a few days with a wrist.
Okay. As much as I love Giggs, just because the fact that Nedved's there, and we saw when Nedved came in, Giggs and Nedved rotated a bit of left wing. As a result, I think they're both out. I think they're both priced at that price, because if one or the other gets injured, then they'd just be too cheap. And I think Nedved can play in centre midfield occasionally. Also, Veron leaves a lot. I rarely see him last the season, so maybe that's factored in. Maybe in some of the sims, Veron left, and then Nedved played a lot in centre midfield. So then how do you price him? Because one sim he's brilliant, the other sim he doesn't play much. it's very tricky. So yeah, as a result, I would just avoid as much as the prices are tempting. Everyone else apart from Chadwick and Veron. I don't think any of the other midfielders are options, in my opinion.
Do you think there's potential Nedved plays over Keane? I think the pricing suggests Nedved's a lot dearer. So could they play Nedved Veron with both having up arrows, maybe?
I suppose that can happen, and it has happened before. I think that's more to do with the fact that Keane, if he does play, is never going to return as well as Nedved if he does play. So you've got to factor that in, right? It's not just about pricing because someone turns up. I think it's pricing because of what they can actually do in terms of goals and assists, which Keane's never getting high numbers for that, really. I mean, you can never say never in ChampMan. Anyone can surprise you, but I think it would probably be more to do with that, to be fair. But the man's right there in front of you, captain. Ask him. He knows the crack.
So nothing. You two chat away. Great.
Yeah, I think it's more to do with the fact of Veron leaving. Probably is factored in. We could just not have him leave. I hope he doesn't, because it will help with having an option and stuff. And obviously, to lose the most expensive midfield will be a bit of an issue. But if it is going to happen, the one good side of that is it's most likely to happen in these first few weeks. I think the transfer market in this game is, even though it does last to March, they seem to do most of their activity in this little window in the next sort of month or so, most of the time.
Nice. I mean, it's quite interesting at the moment. So we've kind of seen it obviously start, ownership-wise, really heavily lean towards Ruud for good reason. And then at the moment, there's basically more teams with Veron in than Van Nistelooy. So I mean, you're talking 3 million difference. They have 3 points between them come last season.
Then obviously season one, there was a big difference between them, right? And that's.
Yeah, but yeah, 14.5 million.
I mean,
for the best player in the game.
I like the fact that it's happened, because it's going to turn people away, and it's going to be scary because Van Nistelrooy, I would imagine, over those 10 pricing sims, probably was the top scoring player in 8 or 9 of them. Like, you are paying for consistency. He is nearly always there. Will he get a season where he gets, how many league goals did he get? 30 something.
31 last year.
Yeah, that is rare, to be fair. So I think, and this is just a me thing, not even in Champ, in real life as well, I do the same. If a player's had a fantastic season, so like Harry Kane this year, and his price goes up in the game, it's always a challenge for them to meet that next year, because they're kind of priced on what they performed. And I think for Van Nistelrooy to get 30 goals, it could happen. But for me, it's more a price for the interest of the game. I still think he's a great captain if you can work out all the cheap players to go around him. But I don't really think that will be value across the season, to be honest. I think that there's plenty of times I'm going to wish I had him, don't get me wrong, but I think avoiding him is probably the optimum play, and I think that's why most people have gone down that route.
Game week 2 is going to be the killer, isn't it? They've got Coventry at home. Yeah. It could be 6 or 7, couldn't it, that game? And
100%.
I'm guessing a lot of people who don't start with him ain't going to get him in for game week 2, because you have to find the money from somewhere to upgrade.
No.
So those that do start with him and couldn't, and then captain him obviously in game week 2, which you would, they could get, I don't know, 40 points, couldn't they, or something in that game?
100%, yeah. But then conversely as well, if you have him and he just doesn't return for 2 or 3 weeks, suddenly you look at that price and you're like, God, I need to ship him out, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
You've priced. You've done what you wanted to do, I think, Captain. You put the price at a level that's got.
It had to be a decision now,
is he?
Had to be a decision. Yeah, now it is a decision.
Yeah, it's hard, right? You don't want. I don't think anyone would wanted the game last year. I think there were points it was 80% owned, right? And then
almost like Salah in real life, right? In FPL, it's just, sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. A player's just too good.
Yeah, and like you say, I don't think what was it, 13.5 last season. But like you say, getting 31 goals in a season.
Yeah, it's mad.
Is 8.5 average rating.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Mad.
I mean, the thing is, he could easily just have a season of 8 goals this season. Like, it can happen. I've seen Van Nistelrooy hit 6 goals in a season and still have like 8.5 average rating, but just still manage only 8 goals.
We've been lucky in both our seasons, haven't we? Because a few strikers got like 25 or something season 1, didn't they? Which again is not that common.
Definitely. I think over the 2 seasons, we've been lucky for a lot of goals. It doesn't always go that way. I think as the game progresses, as we've spoken lots, generally the goals start to come down. It's not a massive factor at this point, because it's not like regens are playing all over the place, but it's more to do with the tactics being worked out. So the goals generally drop a little bit. And then if you add that to the fact that we got ridiculous seasons in terms of goal scoring numbers. Maybe we just get a normal one this time, or even if we got an underperforming one, then suddenly you start to think, well, the strikers might not be worth as much. And that's why I think they've done a great thing here by putting the midfielders, some of these dipped strikers essentially, so the attacking midfielders, centres as midfielders, has kind of given us a new way to play, because midfielders generally, I just think, were pretty poor value across the positions. I know you agree, Craig, and yeah, Janssen, Pedersen, and some of these other guys, Chadwick and stuff, they can be options now. So it'd be nice to see a shift, because I think people have strongly worked it out that the power strikers and power defenders were definitely the play in this game, and I don't doubt there will be again. But it's nice to now have at least on paper a few more midfield options, and then strikers that are, hopefully could stop scoring as many goals. Although we like goals, they're fun, right?
We need them.
Yeah, it's good for comms. I felt bad when I gave weeks to people when there was like 6 goals. I was like, good luck with that one.
No, so we've got one more question on United on before going away. So obviously, what's that? 5.5 million Dwight York cheaper than Van Nistelrooy. Any thoughts for those that wanted to go cheaper on United striking options?
Ultimately, Man United are going to have the most shots in pretty much all of their games, right? And if he starts 25-30 again, he's got scope to score a lot of goals and enough goals to justify that price. He's not going to score more. I'll be very surprised if he scores more goals than Van Nistelrooy, but would you be happy if he scored 6 or 8 less for the money you save? He doesn't get the average rating or the bonus and stuff either, which probably makes him a little less appealing. But if he scores, he's more than capable of scoring like 15 league goals or something. If he does that, even if Van Nistelrooy is scoring 25, he might be there might be enough for some people if you double him up with Veron or something. I wouldn't completely rule him out, York.
No, I wouldn't rule him out. I think it's the same thing I said before, though. With the 2 strikers, he's likely to be performing the worst, and therefore around 70 minutes is most likely to be subbed off for the 1 striker they've got on the bench. And that's the chance you kind of take with him, is that he's more of a 70-minute man. But he can do fine. And I do think if you're wildcarding game week 5, like a lot of people are, and you want to cover Man United as much as you can in terms of an attacking sense, because they have got decent games and they're obviously a decent team, then rather than spend it all on Veron, Van Nistelrooy, everyone else, you could just look at going Chadwick, York, and Veron, for example, and go for a triple attack on Man United, and I think that would be fine. I think York will match most of the people around that price. It's just that there's other Man United options, right? So that's why he kind of drops out a little bit of our thinking. But it's also the banter season. He had season 1. What was it where he scored he didn't score until about game week 20 or something stupid like that? I can't remember what it was now. It was mental.
Yeah.
I started with him and Veron game season 1, and Veron did nothing either, did he?
Veron was. Veron York was underpriced season 1, 100%. It turns out he wasn't, but he was. If that makes sense. He was. A lot of us went for him because in the Sims, like York could hit 20 goals, right, and he was very cheap. And I don't know. There's some sort of shenanigans going on there to see him not score a goal in 20 weeks. Don't know what was going on, but hey, it happens.
Good stuff. Cool. Okay, let's crash through the rest. So Borough, I guess another interesting one. So we've obviously seen that Honcho came in. He's their only addition, and Emerson Boyce, David Murphy. That's it. So pretty much, apart from Honcho, kind of as is. So Crossley's still number 1. I guess Honcho coming in, how does that change the shape of the back 4 they normally play, right? So how's that change it?
He probably just comes in for Ian Pearce or whoever the other first choice centre back was. I think their team should be quite predictable, apart from one central midfield spot. I think the one with whoever plays with Miller is the one position that's maybe a little bit up in the air. It might be Marinelli or could be someone else. But I think the rest of the team's fairly predictable. I think I quite like. They're the one team I think is quite nice. You could probably want 5 or 6 players from, and obviously you're not allowed to because it's the maximum 3 per team. But there's quite a lot of good options in the Middlesbrough pricing, I think, this year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I remember going either way for Marinelli. I think it was one spell of weeks, I think, where Marinelli did well for a couple of weeks, then Miller did well, and I always got the wrong one in. But I've always wanted to try and get one of them in. Although obviously the main man last year was Zepeda. It's gone up to 8 million this year. I mean, yeah, it was mainly the first half of the season, really, wasn't it? Him and Johnson were really tearing it up, but Johnson died off and Zepeda kind of carried on. I mean, he was 7 million last year.
I don't think he carried on that much actually. I think second half he didn't do anywhere near as well as he did first half. He did okay. He kind of ticked along, but I'd be surprised if he kept that up. That's an outstanding season from anything that I've ever seen. Zepeda was a tip. I mean, I talked him up at the beginning of last season when Price said he is a good option, but I didn't expect him to be that good. I'd be very surprised if he hit 14. That doesn't mean that he can't still be value at that price, and especially with the opening fixtures. I know they blank on one of them, but they've got 3 great games. So, again, I'd be surprised if he said to me after the 3 games, Zepeda's got nothing. I'd have thought he'd have got at least one attacking return out of those 3 games. But for me, he's probably not really a consideration. I think it's probably I'd be surprised if he matched it. I think Johnson's fine. I think Johnson's a better pick generally. He's been consistent. Again, he's another one who often gets unhappy and pissed off and leaves Middlesbrough. So I'm surprised. Just check him. He's not unhappy at the moment, is he? I think he's not. Okay.
No, exactly.
That often happens. So I'd look out for that. And then sometimes he actually gets dropped and not played. We've seen this before where players get unhappy and they annoy the manager, right? And then they just don't get a look in, like Hasselbank and stuff. And there's been numerous other examples. So maybe look out for that. But until that happens, the fact that he's on corners as well is just is useful because he's obviously got that string to his bow. And he generally, again, he's another player. I think if we looked across the 2 seasons, has he played every game? Click him on. I think he's close.
36 last season, 38 season 1.
Okay,
yeah,
so
he's missed
only
2
missed
in 2
2
seasons.
games in 3. Yeah, which could be for suspensions or injuries. I don't. If you can look at his injury record, in fact, if you click him and go to his history. But anyway, I think he'd be my option over Zepeda. So he missed 2 games through injury there. Probably.
Yeah.
Let's hopefully he gets wound up though and falls out with the manager, and then we get Dean Gordon as an out of position left wing. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? If we get to that
in fact, Gordon's priced quite highly, I noticed. So I don't know why that is. Whether he plays at left back more than Festa this year, and if that happens, maybe we'll have an option. But Festa's priced highly as well. So whether it was some Sims Festa played, some Sims Gordon played, I don't know. But if either one of those becomes nailed, we know that they're good because Festa has got penalties. So he had a great season 1, scored a lot of penalties. And Gordon also gets a lot of assists. He's consistently very, very high for assists, even though he doesn't always get the game time. So it's only ever a question of game time with him, really, in terms of his output.
Struggled last year. Yeah, struggled last year for games. Played a lot more in season 1.
Yeah. But he's quite... What price is he? I remember seeing him being quite pricey, so I thought maybe that's
Gordon's
strange.
Yeah, Gordon's 5.5.
Yeah, see, that strikes me as pricey for someone who barely played a game last season. But
well, it gives you kind of doesn't give you too much of a steer, but the fact that Atherton's 5, Pierce is 5, Stockdale's 5.
How old's Festa?
How old? 34.
Yeah, maybe start to see him drop out at that age. He'd probably still be all right for 1 more season, I would think, but it's possible.
It'd be interesting to see. It's one to keep an eye on because you might be able to get, obviously, Huncho and Southgate are great for bonus and are probably still the go-tos, but if you do get a nailed-on Gordon, he is a good option. We know that, and he can even play at left wing. So again, another one to watch out for is if Johnson does get annoyed or gets injured for a long period of time, then Gordon's suddenly a great option at 5 million.
Nice.
5.5.
So yeah,
you've got a preference for these centre backs, Luke? Because obviously I was always Honcho, you was always Hippier in the Liverpool times, and now we've moved to a different club where he's got another 50-50 on a similar sort of level.
Yeah, I think they're both absolutely great. I think you can go with both. I think Southgate is just more sensible for the first 4 weeks because if you go to Middlesbrough, are they in Europe? I think we've discussed this the other day.
They are.
Yeah, so Huncho's just so much more injury prone. So I actually think Huncho will outscore him for bonus in the games they play because he does with virtually anyone, Huncho, and I've seen this a lot. So straight up fight, I prefer Huncho, but I just worry that he's going to cause you a headache in the first few weeks because they've even got the extra games where he could get injured in the Champions League and stuff like that or whatever they're playing in. And it's just like, well, is he that good that I can take a risk because Southgate can still hit 10s and 9s in a game all the time? So I'll just go with the security of Southgate. I think we noticed a couple of times last season, though, when Middlesbrough repped at home, which didn't happen that often, but when they did, Southgate occasionally missed out. So Middlesbrough got 3 really, really good games. And in my mind, I thought, well, if they are going to rep in any of the games, it would actually probably be Southgate. And I don't know about Huncho because we've not seen what happens in those situations. So that's another factor to bear in mind. Does it then swing it back to Huncho? I don't know. We'll have to wait for the evidence on that, right?
There is a case of both, maybe not to start with because of the blank, but post like game week 5 onwards or something, if people are going to play a wild card, then there is I definitely think there is something about maybe having both, and they're both 5.5. I think it's fairly generous price for both, and they easily both could have been 0.5 higher. I think so. I think there is potential to go with both of those two. There's obviously a lot of competition for defence with the Man United guys, the Chelsea guys, Liverpool guys as well. So there's only have 5 of them maximum. But
Captain, if you try and find a Middlesbrough fixture around Christmas, that's probably your best chance. Last season, for a home game versus a crap team, we might just get lucky and get one where they've repped and
4 away.
Oh, did they?
4 away.
If it's too much of a ball, like, don't worry. But no, obviously you smashed it
that
straight
was
away.
Yeah. So when was that? That was the 28th of December.
I think you'd be
Otherwise,
lucky to find it because he played 35 games, did he? So there's only 3 in there he hasn't featured. So you're gonna be lucky to find it. But
I mean, both games have clicked on. He's man of the match, then.
Yeah, he's great. Love him.
He was out for 10 days with a bruised thigh. Although, sorry, 02. No, that was last season. Season before, yeah.
I do remember him missing out in 1 rep, but anyway, irrelevant. Forget it. It's probably only going to happen once or twice a season anyway. It's just that if it ever is going to happen, those 3 home games are really good, right? So it would probably be one of them.
How about forwards? So
Miller's the other one who's quite. I think he's maybe possibly quite cheap. We haven't really spoke about him yet. I think he's got. I think he's like 6 million, isn't he?
6.5. Yeah, 6.5.
Yeah, I think he could be worth the saving on Zepeda and Johnson. I think he's got the potential to match them for returns for 1.5 less. So I think he's probably their first choice centre mid. So I expect him to play the majority as well. I'm guessing he played pretty much all of them after he joined. He didn't start last season with them, did he? He came
in the summer.
No,
so not in the summer.
Yeah, well, sorry. He had they had Paul Ince as well, who played a fair bit last season still.
Yeah. That's the only worry for me for this year for Middlesbrough is the fact that their midfield is going to be Miller, who is attacking, and then Ince at 4.5 is probably not going to play, and it's going to be Marinelli who's also attacking, or Greening who's also attacking. And I do think the team as a general performs better if they have actually got a defensive midfielder in there. So it's similar to Leeds where they're playing like 2 pretty attacking centre midfielders, or Man United where they play, if they don't play Keane and they play Veron and Scholes or Veron and whatever, then it's a bit of a detriment to the team because defensive midfielders are pretty damn good in this game for like just actually performing well. So maybe the reason why Huntshaw and Southgate are 5.5 is there's just a dramatic drop in their clean sheets because they're playing a straight 4 attacking midfielders across the midfield. I think that's something to consider. But
gives them more to do though, right? To get higher bonus.
This is true. This is true. They might ship 5 goals, but they'll get a 10. Yeah.
Cool. Got to speed things up a little bit.
Sorry, yeah.
But yeah.
Stop asking.
No. Well, Boxic and Rickard, both same price again. I think they're the same price last season. Did you price not the same last season?
I can't
but both 9. Both 9 as well this season. So one was notorious at home, one was away. I can't remember who was who.
I think
it was Rickard.
Boxic at home, Rickard's away. I don't think there's much in that, to be fair. Boxic is just really good for bonus. He's another player who's good for bonus, and obviously home strikers generally do better for bonus. So at home, Boxic is probably a better captain just on that alone. Forget the fact that he scored goals for me. But he's obviously going one way, and I think Rickard's in the prime now, 29. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's much in it. I think they're priced the same because in one season, one will do better than the other, and it's always been that way. So there's a little bit of luck involved. If anything, I'd probably be tempted to go Rickard just because he's like I say, in his prime, but it could easily go the other way.
Cool, good stuff. No other injury concerns. Crossley's unhappy. Just wants a new contract. Runner is asking Crossley a solid choice after the blank. Goalkeeper an option.
He's 5.5, isn't he?
Yeah, you'd rather have defenders for that money, wouldn't you? I think. I'd rather have Michael Oakes and a Southgate than Crossley and a 5 million defender if it was something like that sort of balance in acting your squad.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you want to pick if you wanted to do an expensive goalkeeper strategy in wildcard game week 5, then Crossley's fine as long as but then you'd also have to have someone who can play game week 2 because obviously he's not there. I think they probably got the highest shout for clean sheets. You could do that, but no, 5.5 is too much for a goalkeeper for me. Even if it was Barthez, I probably wouldn't be interested.
Cool. Moving on to Newcastle. So they've brought a few in. They've brought Gary Holt in from Norwich. He's defensive mid. Danny Griffin in from Dundee.
Yeah, he's decent.
And then Guardso. So this was one that, yeah, and we'll be upfront and honest about it. You know, two players to come in, defensive midfielder, same again. So initially we did have these priced up as midfielders, but Luke correctly spotted that where they kind of sit in with the rest of the squad is that they do come in at centre back. So we've moved them down to both defenders. So
I'll probably be wrong now, and I'll probably
Griffin.
be midfield. But I was just thinking Stephen Hughes and Holt in centre midfield. I can't see where these guys are going to play. And Griffin is a really good defender. Well, not really good. He's a decent defender, and most of their other defenders are not good. So I think Griffin will be their main centre back, to be honest.
So Griffin is 4.5.
Yeah, it's just Newcastle, isn't it? But I think he's decent.
Happens quite a lot on this game for us, doesn't it? We've got quite good midfielders on this game, but the AI seems determined to play him in defence. They've done it with Prutton already. They may do it with Paz at Everton. Now they're going to do it with this guy as well. Just seems like
Maddison could end up at right back as well. Yeah.
Well, they have lost a few, funnily enough. So look, Robert's finally pissed off. He's gone home. He was miserable, made everybody miserable. So now you've got a bit of some high morale in the team, maybe.
Nice.
Chettel's gone, but Marcelino and Barton have gone as well. So necessity to get some defensive structure in. Hence the two.
They're right back now.
They're going to play Watson at right back, aren't they? I think Watson's probably going to be their main right back, but I think Maddison might come in. I just wouldn't touch any of them. No one's going to buy Newcastle defenders anyway, are they? Really, I wouldn't have thought so. So, for me, Griffin is probably the standout one if you are going to do it. Although Bernard is a good chance he plays left wing because Robert went and they don't have any other left wingers, and as you can see, he's got attacking midfielder left there, which the AI likes when it puts people in midfield spots on the left and right. And we saw it last season as well. That doesn't mean he's going to do anything because he's pretty dreadful, but. Yeah, I can't see who else they're going to play at unless they move Stephen Hughes to left wing, which doesn't happen usually. He usually plays centre midfield, or Bellamy, who can occasionally come in at left wing. But we've from everything we've seen from season 1 and season 2, they haven't liked that. So
Speed's still there as well.
Speed is still there. That can happen, and I think that's pretty much what's going to happen. Is it's just going to change like week on week. I think that'll be the spot that's most open to interpretation every week.
Gary Speed is trying to force his way into the team.
Yeah.
Quite a few people unhappy. So Dyer's unhappy. Wants to move to a bigger club.
I'll be snapping him up, I tell you.
I mean, we saw, wasn't it the first few game weeks of last season, Stephen Hughes went on a bit of a tear and then literally disappeared off the face of a cliff. There's about 7 of those assists came in the first 5 weeks, I think, something silly like that, wasn't it? And then didn't appear. I mean, it's the problem with Newcastle is it's the manager, right? It's the tactic.
Yeah, it's pretty dreadful. What's the club unhappy? His what do you call it? Not what's the word I'm looking for? Is he going to get sacked soon?
Job security.
Thank you very much. No, unfortunately.
Everyone's happy.
Yeah. Sunderland manager is on there just for future reference when we get to them.
So again, this is going to be something where, see that Sunderland one, let's say in some of the pricing sims these guys did, right? He could lose, they could lose the first 3 or 4 games and he could get sacked in some sims. And then it totally changes everything we know about Sunderland's data and who plays. And then in another sim, they don't lose any of the first 3 or 4 games and he stays on and stays the manager. So that's where just ridiculous levels of variance can come in, especially when the manager's involved. So you just don't know on that one. I mean, they've priced players in Sunderland, for example. We might think, well, that's a bit strange, but it might be because they were playing as a second striker or a right wing back or something because they completely changed formation depending on who they signed.
You don't want them getting a 3-5-2 manager and then paying $8 million to have Julio Arca as a wing.
Well, this is the thing. Gray was listed as a midfielder, right? I was like, what's going on here? He needs to be a defender, and they changed it. But I'm thinking, well, maybe he gets sacked and he ends up being the main left winger, and Julio Arca's like up front or something. I don't know. No idea. So one to keep an eye out for.
Makes it interesting. It
does make it interesting. But yeah, on Stephen Hughes, I think he's a great pick, especially for the first 4 weeks. I think Newcastle got good games. he's not as good as he was in the first part of last season. And he's not as bad as he was in the second half. He's somewhere in between. He's generally just a really good pick. So
Have his attributes dropped, Luke? Did he have 20 for long shots and set pieces? I just know he's got 18 for both of those now.
yeah, but they're not training, are they? So this happens. So all the players' attributes drop a little bit because they don't train in the off season, and then they start again. And as soon as the games start playing, everyone who's around 18, 19 and stuff will go up 2 or 3 points in certain areas most of the time. So yeah, I think all of the players will have dropped slightly. And when they're older, it drops even more quicker. So Shearer, even though I think his stats are still great, some of them will drop. He's still got most of his ones. Those ones on the right never change.
He's got some non-playing attributes now. Do you have those last year?
Not that I can recall.
I mean, when we're talking up front, is it Shearer or nothing? Or do you think so? Court's in at 6.5.
I'm big on Court. I think Court's is a good cheap way into the attack for the first 4 weeks as a chance. I think of all the cheap strikers, he's probably right near the top for me. His attributes are good. He scores goals a lot. There was some sort of quirk at the end of season 2 where they started playing that LEI guy instead. He's not as good as Shearer, like flat out, but could he match him in 4 weeks? Possibly, because he's like half the price, right? I think he's a fine option. I think compare him to any 6.5 million mid, I think he's probably smash him. But yeah, I think the other strikers are 4.5 as well, right? Aren't they? I think they are. So that suggests they just don't play.
It is. Bellamy's 5.
Okay.
Kadamatri and Shola.
Kadamari only plays right wing, so yeah. I think he's an option. I think if you're struggling to think how am I going to afford the team I want, then Kyle Court's a nice little budget enabler for a game week 5 wildcard. I don't think he could hold him season long, but I think generally you want expensive players out front, right?
I agree. He's probably the best starting cheap striker unless you go Bolton in preparation for that Norwich game week 2. There's obviously the 2 Bolton guys, Ramberg and Wallace, are cheap and could do something, but they're probably the best options, I would think, if you've got a spot for a cheaper third striker.
Yeah, Tommy Smith just on player ability as well. I think it'd be slightly more expensive, I think, but I wouldn't touch Watford to begin with.
Well, nice segue into Norwich. So third of our promoted teams, we lost Gary Holtz to Newcastle. They brought in Darren Moran as a defender, Kevin Nolan, as we know from Bolton, and Neil McCann from Rangers as a forward. Yeah, we'll need to speed through the last few, otherwise I'm getting a bollocking. But anyone of notes?
We can speed through this lot.
Yeah, I think you can tell from your pricing that there's a lot of players that you just don't know whether they're going to play, and I think it'll probably differ on sim. I think for defence you go for where's he gone? Why can't I say his name? Malcolm Mackay. Is it Malcolm?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Malcolm
Mackay.
Yeah, I think he's their best centre back, similar to Galley sort of situation. He'll ship a load of goals, probably do okay for bonus. I don't really like any of their other picks really, apart from Nolan 4.5. I think he's probably one of the standout 4.5 million midfielders. I think he'll play in a 3 midfield. Will he score or assist? Probably not that much, but he can do. I've seen like 7-7, for example, goals and assists before, so he could happen.
He seems the optimum player to leave a permanent third sub, and if you desperately need him, then he can come on. But
I agree with that. I think he's one of the standout ones there, and I don't really like anyone else. The Scottish guy, McCann, in my experience, I think away from home, Norwich play as him as an AMC as he's down there. But I think in home games, he often will play in midfield, actually. I rarely see him play up front. I think he'll play in midfield.
We saw this, didn't we? We had I think it was McCann and Marchant that we had, and we were looking at the pricing, and these were 2 that we did stick the same. Because it did seem that Norwich seemed to play slightly different formation away and at home, and that changes where a few of these flick around. So I think it's definitely kind of a wait and see.
Yeah, so Marchant's an interesting one actually, because he's potentially a gem. He can either play up front as a centre forward, and because he's got really good dribbling. Anyone who's got good dribbling in this game can do well. He's got high agility as well, which is good. So, and pace. He's got like quite a lot of good attributes in this game that are useful. He could actually be quite good value. You also, though, will play right wing back because they play a wing back system. So sometimes I've seen him play right wing back for Norwich. Sometimes I've seen him play striker for Norwich. You don't know which one you're going to get, and it could change in the Sims as well. So we could get a really good version of him or not. But because he's so cheap, I think he's a 5 million midfielder. Is that right, or something like that?
5.5. Yeah,
right. So it's
5.5.
quite expensive. So that suggests to me that he probably did well in your Sims, which because you wouldn't think that he would be 5.5 for a Norwich, or maybe you guys just thought he'd play up front. I don't know, but one to look out for. If I'm trying to sell a Norwich player, I think he could be the one that no one knows about that can do okay.
No, I think we'd be open. There's plenty of options. I think from one for him. Yeah, it depends on whether they're playing home and away, and I genuinely can't remember which one it is. But it's a case of there's certain matches he will play up front alongside Abbey, but other times, like you say, he might play right wing back or right mid or something like that. So rather than keep him at his highest kind of position, and then
you want to make him
you're not going to pay for a yeah, exactly. So if he gets out of position, he stays there. Nice. Cool. Sunderland. So we've had come in. Dobson, probably the only one of note, really. Or Letao came in as another forward.
He's probably better than the ones they've got, probably.
I didn't even notice him. Is he priced up in the game?
No, I don't think he is actually.
Right, well that says everything then.
Which tells you something. Yeah. No, seriously. Yeah, being honest.
He's not even in the game.
But like you say,
the stats.
Well,
okay,
I think he's been. Yeah, he's priced up behind the scenes, but I think from a squad perspective, there's a lot of strikers here. So Libra came in, Sabon came in first, then it was Libra, to then partner Phillips, wasn't it? So yeah, I think there's options. I think there's quite a few in there. If he starts turning up, though, obviously we'll add him to the game. But yeah, I guess there's no real changes from they lost Reddy.
Yeah, the big change for them is going to be the manager, isn't it? I don't think playing wise we're going to see a lot of difference, but if the manager's on the chopping block, should we say, then that's going to be quite interesting for them. Might make Medina an option at 4.5 if they end up playing 3 in midfield with a new manager. Probably that strengthens his scope to start, because he's probably one of the ones on the fence at the minute. His attributes are really good, aren't they? But we just he's sort of on the fringes of the first team, isn't he, without being nailed. But he's 4.5, isn't he? So he's quite good for that price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So you got Ardley at 6. You've got Gavin McCann at 6 as well. You got Teal at 6.5, and then Arca's gone up to 7.5.
Here's a fast. Medina's getting kept out of the team by Gavin McCann. That's a shame.
Yeah, he's one of the players who starts with -2 potential, McCann. So he can be really, really good. Obviously, he's had high hopes for him. Yeah,
his attributes are better than I thought they were, to be fair.
Yeah, no, he's decent. He's passing as well. He is a good player, like in the game. He's like the Richie Wellens kind of passing midfielder.
Not captain material, unfortunately.
No, not very influential at all. To me, his Tome's good for bonus, isn't it? 5. He's 5. He's an extra 0.5, I think. Then they back 4 again. He's still really good for bonus.
He is suspended for the first game.
Okay. And the wingers, I think Teal's underperformed on what we can see from him. So again, he could do better than 6.5. I think, for example, if you compared him to Gerrard, like Craig was saying earlier, I'd take Teal all day. I wouldn't take Gerrard at all. Yeah, fixtures aren't great for me. I'm just going to sort of sit back, but it's the wingers, Tome and Phillips, isn't it? I don't think anyone else is really a consideration. Medina, if he gets the minutes, but we don't know that yet.
Phillips has scored 25 goals plus in the last 2 seasons. 11.5.
I don't know what it is. They've got good players, Sunderland, but I just don't trust. I think they'll end up near the end of the season conceding like among the most goals, which obviously puts you off their defenders. They might get some boners, but I can see them chipping like.
They're quite attacking, aren't they? Even away from home, they're generally pretty attacking most of the time. Phillips often gets sold as well. He doesn't stay at Sunderland long when he does well, and he can go to another Premier League club, so that could factor in as well. Maybe that's why the other strikers. I mean, if he does leave, then suddenly, let's assume they don't buy anyone, then you can get Sibon and Libra are both cheap, aren't they? So you could have like a whoever becomes the main man from that, I wouldn't even know, to be honest with you. But they have a cheap striker from a team that can attack at home, so one to look out for.
Good stuff.
The Cats are
2 to
currently
go.
killing each other.
Oh, I heard that.
Yeah, I got a new kitten, and she doesn't like him basically, so she keeps giving him grief.
Yeah, I've got one that's just
blended in.
Angry all the time. Angry all the time. They do though, don't they? It's just cats. They're just mine is anyway. Just hate everyone, hate everything. Spurs. Players out. Lost Richard Johnson to Watford. Brought in Emerson Boyce from Middlesbrough.
I don't think they had
so
right
yeah,
back
this is
last season, did they?
No,
they had that Clark guy.
They were playing a centre back or right back a lot of the time because they switched to a back four, didn't they? He's 4 million. I think he'll play at left back. He's already at left back there. They don't have any other left backs. Ziga could play there, but they much prefer playing in midfield. So I think rather than do the smart thing, it'll probably just play Ziga at left back. It'll be Clark. So I think if you're looking for a 4 million defender who's going to play, Clark's up there in the list. There's probably other ones that might be better, but we don't really know for sure. Like from the promoted teams, maybe you'll get lucky with one of the 4 millions that plays and it's better. I mean, I wouldn't rush to buy him because Spurs can't keep clean sheets and he's not going to do well for average rating at all. But if you literally the whole point is you want someone who's going to play, then I think Clark is. I can't see who else they're going to play. I just can't see who else they're going to do. But there.
Yep.
He's led the king 4 million as well, because I can imagine him being the one that a lot of people pick as their 4 million Spurs defender. But I agree that you're better off having Clark than King.
Oh yeah, no, King won't play. I mean, King's attributes are getting good, and he does get good in the game. But at the moment, Richards, Benjajevic, and Perry, are all better. So he ain't gonna play.
Sorry, 2 seconds. I'm on my phone, so I've just got a text. Okay.
Mrs. saying,
cool.
Hurry up.
Can I come in? Yeah. I mean, interestingly, so we've obviously moved Ziga up to a mid this year.
Okay, yeah. So that tells the story as well, right?
But yeah, otherwise, we moved Selakovic to a forward.
Yeah.
Just seeing where he features, and it is what we've kind of been seeing in terms of a straight 2. That's one of the reasons why he's been moved up. But then again, you're up against Rebrov and Everson. I mean, Everson's down to 8 this season. Generally just underperformed in both seasons, hasn't he?
Yeah.
From an appearances and a goals perspective.
Yeah, you wouldn't touch him unless one of the others gets injured, I think. And even then, it's debatable. Selakovic could do fine. I mean, we all know he takes penalties, right? Which is a good thing. So you're getting a strike. Well, he's kind of a midfielder, but he's playing as a striker. So for home games with penalties, he could be all right for a stretch or get a few goals. But I think Rebrov will generally score more goals, certainly from open play. And Selakovic isn't really suited to that role. So it's another one where I hope the manager gets sacked, to be honest, because Spurs are just kind of a dead ground. I don't know what Craig thinks there, but
I think it's
really
goalkeepers. I think you can get the 8.5 million goalkeeper rotation. Of all of those, they're probably the best one to start with. But there's other options with Watford and Norwich. I think you can get 8.5 for the 2 goalkeepers. But I think
Coventry,
I think my preference is marginally for Tottenham. Although I agree, they won't probably keep a lot of clean sheets. But apart from the goalkeepers, I'm not really seeing loads. Simon Davis is obviously really good, but in this system, it's just not really working out for him, is it?
I think he can do fine in centre midfields. He'd be the only one I'd probably be 10. Anderton at right wing can do well, but his injury proneness is 20. So there's enough chaos in this game for me to chance Darren Anderton. So I won't be chancing him. But Simon Davies, I think, is the one that can have good seasons. And he started well last season, actually, and then they just tailed off as the managers started changing around and other things happened. But yeah, it's the goalkeeper. I'm with Craig. It's the goalkeepers, Simon Davies, Steve Clark. If you want a nailed 4 million. Wouldn't touch anyone else personally.
I don't particularly rate Sereni, but I do rate Sereni. I don't think he'll do that well for clean sheets, but I'm surprised that he is cheaper than some of the other keepers, like Ian Walker, for example. I would have put those two kind of. I would have thought they'd be round about the same price. So the fact of the 4.5, he probably is the best keeper in the best team, just about. I say I like Matzidis as well, but I think Tottenham will probably won't concede quite as many goals as Watford, which probably just marginally makes him the standout of the 4.5s, I think. But there's probably not a lot in it.
Well, Tottenham have signed about 8 goalkeepers over 2 seasons, so there might be a factor. They might sign another one, and that's 3D drops out or something.
All household names by now, aren't they? Sean Jalal,
Yeah.
Tota. Although Tota's getting, he's improving a
Well,
bit.
Tota's got good attributes for potential, and in one of my games, he replaces Buffon at Juventus, and he's now the first choice goalkeeper. Like, I'm not shitting you. Like he does pretty well, and you can see his attributes
4
are good
million.
there. Yeah, so he was banter season 1. He was never as much banter as Jalal, to be fair. Jalal's the main
That's
banter.
terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got 12 caps now.
Yeah, that's true. Who am I to fucking put him down? He's done more with his life than me.
Yeah. Right. Last one. Watford, who survived by the skin of their teeth last year, I think. Yeah, survived by 3 points. No Gully this year. He's moved on to Brighton. 20 sold. You'd buy that. But they've brought in Richard Johnson from Spurs, Adrian Williams, and lost a few. I think any of these were involved, were they? No.
2 goalkeepers gone there.
True. So you still got Matzidis.
Yeah,
So
I think
he's still there at
decent.
4.5.
He's just a good keeper, so it's nice. It's nice to see. But losing Galley for Watford, I'd imagine they'll concede even more goals this season. His positioning does wonders for that. Vega's still decent player, but yeah, Johnson's just interesting at 4.5. I think he's probably, alongside Nolan, one of the standouts. I don't know for sure that he's going to play, but they had a whole season 2 where they had Venanza as one of the midfielders, and then they'd just play a randomer alongside him, and it would change most weeks, and it was like the only spot that was kind of up for grabs. And I think the fact that's because they sold Johnson, because they originally had him to Spurs, and he was like their standout player, along with Petkov wasn't there at that point. He was their standout player at season 1. So now he's come back to them. I'd be surprised if he doesn't take that role. And he's got 20 for long shots. And if I remember rightly, in the few games he played for Spurs, he did occasionally score a goal or something. I think he did okay. I think he scored a couple, maybe. You want to click on him? I don't know. Talking about Johnson.
Wrong player. Yeah, wrong
Sorry,
player.
I'm still on.
He's midfield centre in your bottom right there.
3 down from Vega.
There we go. There you go. That was last year. Season 1, season 2.
Yeah.
He's got Gerrard numbers there from 10 appearances.
Yeah, so go to his profile. I think he's got 20 for long shots.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a player who's miles away from the goal most of the time, the one attribute you'd want to hope that he would occasionally get a goal would be that one, right? So, yeah, I think he's decent for a 4.5. He's not going to set the world alight. I imagine he plays most of the games, if not all of them, and you might get lucky and he scores 7 worldies throughout the season.
Just want to call out here for the 18% of people who own Milan Petkov. He's only out for a few days, but he's out for the first game week.
Oh, okay, interesting.
No condition there though.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Injured during training. So there you go. I think he's the only main injury concern. Yeah.
I missed the first part of this season. I'm sure I can catch up afterward. Was anyone else injured that I missed at the very first few teams that I wasn't aware of? Don't worry, I can catch up if it's not on there.
Michael Owen's orange flagged.
Was that the only one? I saw that.
Probably the biggest. Probably the biggest one. Partridge we've tweeted before. No one at United. No, that was pretty much it, wasn't it?
Cool,
yeah.
Cool.
We'll tweet them out anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Tommy Smith is the only other person to really bring up here. I think Benno was saying quite often moves to Chelsea or something like that, and if that happens, he probably will be massively underpriced if he ends up at a Chelsea. He probably can justify his price at Watford, I would say, but you're hoping he moves to an Arsenal or a Chelsea, really, aren't you? If he goes to one of those two, which can happen.
This is usually his breakout season. He usually does pretty well. I'd be surprised. I mean, he's already their star player there. Yeah, I'd imagine he does fine. It's just the fact that Watford are going to, be favourite to be battered most games. So yeah, if he gets a move, which does happen quite a lot, he suddenly becomes interesting depending on where he goes. I mean, if he goes to Sunderland, for example, to replace Kevin Phillips, then we've got potentially a diamond on our hand. But he could go to another team where he's got competition up front, which is usually what happens, unfortunately. And then you just never know. But I've seen him at Chelsea quite a lot as well. Yeah, does well.
Awesome. That's us. That's all 20 in 3 hours and 45 minutes of total stream time. So thank you all for joining.
Not today, right? I was gonna. No, that's with the other part one as well.
And the part one.
Yeah.
But no, not like you've got anything else to do over Christmas anyway. Yeah. Although the FPL wise, they're saying it's the game week after Christmas, isn't it? Or game week 20? They're trying to push away. Anyway, what we're going to be doing, so we've got one more stream to run, which is just going to be a game week 1 stream. So we're going to run that the Sunday before game week 1 kicks in. So, well, that would be New Year's Day. So it'll probably be, it'll be the 2nd of January. We're going to look to just do a game week 1 stream. So Rob and I will probably bring out our dead teams, so you can all laugh at them. And yeah, gauge what you will from those as well. Cool. Any other than that, Craig, Luke, thanks for jumping in short notice as well. Actually, both of you jumping in short notice. Cool. I hope to all in the chat. Hope that was good. Hope you found that useful. If you've got any other questions, feel free to tweet the main account or just drop comments. So make sure you like the video. See, I'm not a natural host. I don't do all the liking, subscribing stuff.
Hey man, what's up? Yeah, here we go today. Right, make sure you drop a like. Yeah, you got to drop all that American shit on it, haven't you? And proper hyped up.
Right, I'll get better.
Yeah,
I'll get better. Amazing. Cool. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining, and we will catch you next time. Awkward wave time. Awkward wave. Bye.
He wants to be a millionaire.